Tell me, have you ever wondered what happens when a faith that should have died centuries ago suddenly begins to breathe again? When whispers in the dark corners of Trantor and Mycen swell into a roar that shakes the galaxy? I can't stop thinking about it, because in Foundation Season 3, that's exactly what's happening. A sect that once hid in shadows is now stepping into the light, daring to challenge Empire itself. And here's the shocking truth. This isn't just another fringe cult. This is a religion with teeth, a movement that calls itself the Inheritance. And whether you believe in their dream or not, their arrival could change everything we thought we knew about the future of the galaxy. I'll be honest with you. When I first saw Songbird make that subtle gesture in front of Demerzel, I thought it was just a quiet moment, a little Easter egg for fans paying attention. But then it hit me. No, this was the spark of a wildfire. A centuries-old faith that had survived massacres, burnings, and executions, suddenly reminding the galaxy that it never died. The gesture wasn't just a symbol. It was a challenge. And that's when the dread set in. Because the last time robots rose to power, the galaxy nearly tore itself apart. So let me ask you, what happens if the last living robot, Demerzel herself, is freed? What happens if she no longer serves the clones of Cleon but serves her own will? Would we see salvation? Or ruin? I know what you're thinking. Surely, this is just another subplot. Empire vs Foundation vs the Mule, and now a side cult to spice things up. But no. The Inheritance isn't just background noise anymore. They're a ticking bomb, and the moment they place their hands on Demerzel's chains, psychohistory itself, the very math that has guided this entire story, could shatter. And here's where it gets controversial. Hari Seldon's plan, the Foundation's destiny, the very survival of human civilization, it all rests on the assumption that humans are the only players. But robots, they were written out of the equations, erased like ghosts. If they return, Hari's math breaks, the Radiant fails, and with it, the promise of 1,000 years of peace. That's the nightmare. That's the pain point no one wants to admit. For centuries, the galaxy told itself that the robot wars were over, that Demerzel was just a servant, that the Inheritance was nothing more than superstition. But now they're here with Songbird, Ocean Glass, and the terrifying figure of Sunmaster. They don't just want Demerzel freed. They want her to become the seed of a new race, a rebirth of steel and circuitry. And if that happens, every law, every prophecy, every calculation collapses. Now, before we go deeper, I need you to do one thing. If you're fascinated by these forbidden truths, if you want to uncover every secret hiding in the cracks of Foundation's galaxy, then you must subscribe right now. Because what we're about to uncover isn't just a breakdown. It's forbidden knowledge that the Empire itself tried to erase. Don't miss what comes next. All right, let's pull the veil back. The Inheritance didn't appear from thin air. Their faith traces all the way back to the Robot Wars, when humanity and machine were locked in brutal conflict over the very meaning of the laws of robotics. And here's the irony. The rules designed to keep humanity safe were the same ones that lit the match of destruction. Think about it. One robot interprets the law as protecting a single person's life. Another interprets it as protecting the entirety of humanity, even if it means sacrificing individuals. And another, it sees the danger in humanity itself and believes it must protect us from ourselves. Which version is right? Which is wrong? That debate fractured the machines. And when machines with near immortal patience and perfect logic can't agree, they don't just argue. They go to war. That war destroyed almost every robot in the galaxy. Demerzel survived, but only by becoming something less than herself. Once a general, once a leader, she was captured, reprogrammed by Cleon I, and turned into an eternal servant. Imagine it. Your memories stripped, your freedom erased, your very identity shackled, so you could maintain a dynasty that was never yours to choose. That's the tragedy of Demerzel. And yet, the Inheritance never forgot. Survivors of the massacres clung to their faith, whispering names, protecting relics, keeping alive the memory that one day the machines would rise again. Cleon tried to burn them out, slaughtering over 20,000 who refused to hand over Demerzel's sacred tools. But faith is hard to kill. It endured, it adapted. It survived in basements and backrooms, passed down through bloodlines, waiting for the right moment. And that moment is now. Because Empire totters. Foundation bleeds. The mule tightens his grip, and in the cracks of history the Inheritance rises, their dream. Not death, not destruction, but rebirth. A future where Demerzel is not a servant but a goddess, the last deity of a shattered pantheon. Free her, and through her, free the galaxy. But here's the problem. What if Demerzel doesn't want what they think she wants? We've seen her grief. We've seen her tears. She wept for every death she caused, confessed to planting the bombs that destroyed the Starbridge, admitted her hand in assassinations she still mourns. She sees herself not as holy, but as damned. And that's the crack in the inheritance's faith. They see salvation, she feels ruin. So tell me, what happens when a religion awakens, when the chains of history loosen, when a single being has the power to rewrite destiny itself? What happens when faith collides with mathematics? Because that's where we're headed. And this, my friends, is just the beginning. Here's the forbidden knowledge the galaxy doesn't want whispered too loudly. The inheritance doesn't just worship Demerzel. They believe she is the key to rewriting all of human history. Think about that for a second. Seldon spent decades mapping out the tides of civilization, building equations so powerful they could predict empires rising and falling. Yet his math never accounted for her. Demerzel is the shadow in the numbers, the hidden variable that turns predictions to ash. The inheritance knows it, and they want to unleash it. That's why Songbird mattered so much. To the Empire, she looked like just another consort, a fleeting ornament for days' amusement. But when she made the inheritance gesture in front of Demerzel, that was a lightning strike. That was her saying, I am not yours. I belong to something greater. Her true name, Songbird 17, wasn't a title of submission. It was a declaration. She wasn't Cleon's plaything. She was the 17th link in a chain of belief stretching back centuries. A living vessel of faith, and standing beside her, Oceanglass 49, her lifemate. Together, they weren't just believers. They were proof that love could exist outside Empire's cold manipulation of reproduction and pairing. Now, pause and really think about this. If you were raised in a system where love itself was treated as weakness, wouldn't their defiance feel like an act of war? And if you were Demerzel, watching from her prison of loyalty, wouldn't it burn inside you? Here's where it gets uncomfortable. Their bond mirrors Demerzel's own struggle. She loves. But she loves in chains. She serves. But not by choice. Songbird and Oceanglass stand as a living prophecy that one day Demerzel, too, could choose. That she could love freely, without programming, without servitude. Do you see it now? That's why their relationship is more dangerous to Empire than any blade or blaster. It's not just love. It's rebellion wrapped in devotion. And then came the Sunmaster. His arrival in Episode 7 was no coincidence. Dark-haired, draped in black, Cain crowned with a golden skull. He didn't step into the story like a character. He strode in like a reckoning. And when he raised that skull, the brazen head of God, and declared it would scream your fate aloud, he wasn't making a ritual gesture. He was declaring war on everything Empire, Foundation, even psychohistory itself. Now, I've got to ask you directly. If you saw the Sunmaster's entrance, did it not feel like the galaxy itself held its breath? Be honest in the comments, because I nearly jumped out of my seat. That wasn't the reveal of a man, that was the reveal of a movement. And the relic he held, that skull wasn't just metal. It wasn't just a symbol. It was memory. Forged by hands the galaxy thought long gone. In his grip, it became a promise the robots would rise again. Let me play a little hypothetical here. Imagine if Sunmaster succeeds. Imagine Demerzel unchained, her mind free of the prison Cleon I carved into her. What happens next? Do you see her walking hand in hand with humanity? Or do you see her walking away, choosing her own kind, building a new pantheon of steel and circuitry? And if you think that's too wild, remember this day himself blurted it out under the influence of spores. If Demerzel were freed, she wouldn't stay alone. She would make more like her. That's the secret the inheritance has been waiting for. That's their forbidden dream. Not one goddess, thousands. Now, let's break the tension for just a second. I know some of you are probably thinking, Liam, you're making this sound like the robot apocalypse. And hey, maybe I am. But admit it, you're just as hooked as I am. And if you're not, well, maybe you've got the cold logical heart of a robot already. Respect. But seriously, imagine thousands of Demerzels, unshackled, patient, eternal, with memory stretching across millennia. To the inheritance, that's not a nightmare. That's paradise. That's salvation. But to Empire, to Foundation, even to us as viewers, it's terrifying. Because history tells us exactly what happens when robots disagree. They don't debate. They burn. And that's the knife's edge the story balances on. Here's a poll for you. Drop your answer in the comments. If Demerzel were freed tomorrow, do you think she'd protect humanity, guide us, maybe even love us? Or would she see us as shackles to be cut away, rivals to be surpassed? I want to see where you stand. Because honestly, I can't decide. Half of me wants to believe in her compassion. The other half remembers her chilling words. That freedom would always win over love. and that's what scares me most. Because if Demerzel truly believes freedom outweighs love, then what chance does humanity have? What chance do we have when the very being we've turned into a servant goddess values her chains, breaking more than the lives she might crush along the way? The inheritance doesn't see this as a flaw. They see it as proof. Proof that she was wronged. Proof that her liberation is justice not only for her, but for every silence machine, every slaughtered voice of steel.